minister to those who are so sick and hurting that they are capable of causing harm and vengeance on their fellow man before they cause it. Angry outbursts and torture and murder is such a common occurrence. How does it ever stop?
I don't think we know, but it is to interrupt and break the vicious cycles of death. And we all know the kinds of policies, the kinds of practices, the kinds of words, the kinds of gestures that can disrupt the cycles of death, for which Easter is the paradigmatic example. What Jesus did in Easter was not simply to resuscitate a dead guy. What God did in Easter was to break the power of death. And all the ministries of the church are investments in breaking the power of death. What we have to pay attention to is that those of us who subscribe to these church practices are at the same time deeply enmeshed in the power of death. So we have to recognize our own incredibly ambiguous situation in that. But what we know is that discipleship, inconvenient as it might become, is all about disrupting those cycles of death. So when John asked Jesus about whether you are the Messiah, Jesus doesn't answer him, but he says, the blind see, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, the poor rejoice. What Jesus says is, maybe I am the Messiah. I am disrupting the power of death. And that ministry has been entrusted to the church. I think our reluctance and our parsimony are because we are in some deep way aware that we are beneficiaries of the power of death, and we don't want to disrupt it too much. But it is our vocation, I think.
So we see someone suffering and we turn away from them instead of engaging them. And in that, we have we've done the opposite of what you've described, right? So somehow we have to begin to see those who are suffering instead of turning away and protecting ourselves from it. And I think of the story that was recently in the news, one of the school shootings, in which the woman who was working in the office stopped this man who entered the school by talking to him, by seeing him, by listening to him. And it was in that act of just seeing him as a human being that changed the cycle of death, that stopped the cycle of death there.
The word respect literally means looking a second time.
Right.
This reminds me of, the breaking the cycle is usually very costly. It's usually a cross event for somebody. When we were at the Lambeth Conference in 2008, a number of brothers from the Melanesian Brotherhood came and were chaplains to all the Anglican bishops that were there. And the Melanesian Brotherhood, they're in the area around New Guinea, their vocation is to be peacemakers. And they were on the Solomon Islands, where there was a long-standing feud going on between two political parties, where a lot of people had died, with very, very serious ongoing conflict. So they pitched their tents literally between the two sides. And both sides thought that they were spies for the other. So one side actually attacked them and kidnapped some of them, and they were tortured and murdered. When everybody understood that they were really there to help make peace, to broker peace, they were so impressed and so sorry that they made peace. And at the Lambeth Conference, we witnessed the placement of an icon for the 7 brothers who were martyred for peace at the east end of Canterbury Cathedral, which is the chapel of the modern martyrs. So that we saw a whole procession of these brothers from the west end of Canterbury Cathedral. Just imagine this. All the way to the east end where we couldn't even see them anymore, but we could hear them singing as they placed an icon of people that they knew in a chapel for modern martyrs. That's the cost of breaking the cycle.
Yeah.